Hey, it's Justin here. I just have a quick one for you today. It looks like eBay sellers are about to start paying additional taxes on something that they've never been taxed on before. Not on the inventory that they buy or not on the profits they make, but instead, they're going to be charged sales tax of up to 8.25% on the fees that eBay charges sellers just to sell on the platform. That's weird. I don't know how else to say it. But this isn't an eBay decision. It's coming from lawmakers in Texas. And the first version of this goes into effect on October 1st, 2025. But just let that sink in. Maybe you missed what I said earlier, but you're being charged sales tax on money that you paid eBay in fees. Why? Well, Texas passed a law that expands the definition of what's considered a, quote, data processing service, which is a category that's already subject to sales tax in Texas. That means that when eBay charges you their fees, Texas considers that a service that you purchased from eBay, and now you owe sales tax on that purchase. Can I return that purchase? Do I have to keep that? Can I just make a return? Anyway, it's super bizarre, but it's happening, apparently. So if you're a seller in Texas, you need to watch out. eBay hasn't said a word about this yet, though. Poshmark, they've already confirmed that they're complying and charging sellers this new tax. And unless eBay plans to challenge this, and they might, they do have, hopefully they will. I don't know. But you could start seeing extra charges show up on everything that you sell very soon. But here's everything we know so far. Right now, this law only applies to sellers in Texas, and it officially goes into effect on October 1st, 2025, which is very soon. eBay hasn't made a public statement yet. There's been no updates to seller policies or anything like that. Poshmark, though, they've already been prepping sellers. They've acknowledged the law. They're passing that sales tax directly onto the sellers, meaning it's not optional, it's baked into the platform. And this is not just about Texas. The state of Washington has already passed a similar law, and the intent appears to be the same. I feel like there's less information about Washington at this point right now. But that intent appears to be the same, which is to classify marketplace fees as taxable services. So if you're in Washington, you also want to watch out here. And while this might seem like a one or two state issue right now, it's likely just the beginning, because once one state figures out how to squeeze a little bit more revenue out of us sellers, the others might follow. But before we freak out, let's put this into perspective. Let's use some real numbers here and take a look at what this kind of tax would actually end up costing you if you were to be subjected to it. And so we're going to run the numbers based on my own actual eBay sales from last year. Last year, I had a total gross sale amount of $59,100, and I paid $7,761 in final value fees, but that number includes promotional fees, and those are not subject to this new tax for whatever reason. So we have to remove those. eBay tells me I paid $749.60 in promoted listing fees last year. So that brings the total amount subject to this new tax down to $7,011. Now, under the Texas law, 20% of that amount is exempt from taxation for, again, whatever reason. So that means only 80% of my fees would be taxable under this new law. So that comes out to $5,609. That's 80% of $7,011 is $5,609. And Texas, they have a state sales tax rate of 6.25%. And depending on where you live, in Texas, local taxes could add another 2% for a total of 8.25% maximum. So if I lived in Texas and this new law had been active last year, I would have paid 8.25% in sales tax on $5,609, which comes out to an additional $462.75. Just to put that into perspective, my gross income again last year on eBay was $59,100. This new tax would represent about 0.78% of my gross sales, or about 1.5% of my net income. So, not enough to kill a business, but definitely enough to notice, right? Especially if your margins are already tight, like most people. And even if you're not in Texas, by the way, this still matters. You still need to pay attention, because it sets a legal precedent. If one state can successfully reclassify marketplace fees as a taxable service, then others can and likely will. Why not, right? And that's going to change the math for all of us. But what can you actually do about this? Well, right now, Not much, unfortunately. If you sell on eBay or Poshmark or any other marketplace that charges a fee and you live in Texas, you should expect to pay more in taxes on everything that you sell. For eBay specifically, though, I think the most likely outcome is that eBay will collect this new sales tax on your behalf, just like they already do with sales tax paid by buyers. My guess is that they'll deduct it from each sale, and then they'll remit it to the state for you, and you won't have to file anything extra or do anything extra, really. But isn't that another service now that I think about it, right? Is Texas going to charge sales tax on that service as well? It seems like it falls under that same definition. It's like this endless loop of taxation here. But anyway, I'm just guessing how eBay will handle it because they haven't confirmed anything yet. I expect that we'll hear from eBay soon. So the best thing you can do right now is just watch your sales closely. If this tax starts showing up, it may not be labeled clearly. You might just see your fees tick up a little bit without knowing why. And second, if you're not already tracking your numbers, make sure you start. Specifically, you want to keep track of the final value fees separate from your other costs. Because under this new law, only certain types of fees are taxable. If you lump them all together, you won't know what you're actually being taxed on. By the way, if you're a Flipwise user, this should all be handled for you automatically, but we'll keep a close eye on it as well and make sure that everything is covered there. Bottom line, though, just don't panic. Let's wait and see how this plays out. I'm really hoping eBay steps in and throws their weight around a bit. This new law just seems crazy to me. So anyway, that's all I have for right now. Good luck out there.